Hi everyone, welcome to Building Basics. My name is Alex, and today we're building this. This is a metal clip, and we're going to build the model, add the material, we're going to rig it, and then we're going to animate two cycles. We're going to do the bird cycle and the fish cycle that you saw in the intro. The hardest part in this episode, I think, is going to be the build. The complexity of the metal coming around and then cutting parts at the top out for the metal, I think that's going to be the most challenging part. And we're going to look at two modeling techniques for that. Alright, let's jump into Blender, but before we do, let's have a look at the dimensions of this clip. I found this great image online, and I've linked it in the description notes as well. 2 inches by 0.8 by 1. Very key we know those dimensions. The last bit of information that's not given, but we can take a look at, is this loop here. And we can just have an idea. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that loop is 6 or 7 loops high. So that's how roughly we know how big that circle should be. The last part of the build is this handle, which is quite simple to do. Alright, so here we are in Blender, and the first thing I want to do is bring in that cube. So, Shift A, Mesh, and Cube. The cube by default is 2 units by 2 units by 2 units. And if we have a look at this image, one of the dimensions is 2 inches by 1 inch. So that makes it really easy. So the width is 2 inches, and then the height is 1 inch. So here we go. Let's tab into edit mode. We'll grab these 4 vertices and move it up 1 unit. Now I can type in 1 on my keyboard, and now our height is correct, our width is correct, or pardon me, our length is correct. And to get our width, what we're going to do is select these vertices. We're going to move it in 0.6 units, and then the other side 0.6 for a total of 0.8. So here we go. Minus 0.6, 0.6, and now I have 0.4 units plus 0.4 units for my dimensions. And already I've achieved the proportions for this black clip here. The only difference is this is in a triangle, so that's what we're going to do now, and then we'll worry about the loop at the top. Before we do that detail, we're going to mirror it so we don't have to do as much work. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go Control R, we're going to cut it down the middle. We're also going to cut it down the middle, our length as well. We're going to go 3 into faces, and we're going to delete these faces. The reason we're doing that is because we're going to add a mirror modifier, and it's going to help save us time. So let's go over to our modifiers property and come to mirror. So it's mirrored the length. Now we got to mirror the width. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is just work on this 1/4. So let's go to edges, grab this one edge, and we're going to move it in. And we're going to move it in quite close, not touching the center. I think that's great. Okay. So for the detail, what we got to do is we got to build that loop. That's the hardest part of the build. We're going to bevel the bottom. We're going to add a little bit of an arch in here. And then afterwards, once we're happy with the shape and we do our boolean for the cutouts, we're going to do one more modifier, which is a solidify, which is going to add thickness to the overall model. So let's select this top edge, and we're going to use a spin tool today. The spin tool is right here. It's a fun tool, and it works with the cursor. So we got to place the cursor correctly, try the tool, and if you don't place the cursor correctly, just undo it, try it again. Let's go into 3, which is going to be our front view. I'm going to hit Alt-Z just to see through the model, and I'm going to bring that cursor up 1 unit. I'm going to go N, and let's go to View, and here's our 3D cursor properties, and I'm going to bring it up on the Z axis 1 unit. That's exactly where I want it. Now that we have our cursor up there, we're going to move it off to the side. Place it somewhere around there. What's going to happen is with that edge selected, it's going to create a circle around the cursor placement. So let's, on the Y axis, let's move this out just a little bit. Maybe just 0.125. Let's give that a try. And we're on the wrong side. So let's go minus 0.125. Minus 0.125. Perfect. All right, so come on over to our spin tool. Let's click on it. Okay, great. and it's giving us this interface here. And the direction of rotation is on the Z axis, and that's not what we want. So let's fix that. Let's hit N and come on over to our tools, and the tool is specific to the one you have selected. And so what we want to do is we're going to rotate down the X axis. So let's click X, and there you can see the idea of building the circle. So let's go ahead and grab that. And we know we're good right until we crash, somewhere just before. Okay, I'm going to hit W just to get out of that tool. And much too big. It looks a little goofy. I can already kind of count it. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we got it wrong. Let's do it again. Undo. No big deal. So come back here and let's make this minus 0.08. Let's give that a try. Come back to our spin tool. Okay, that's looking a little better. Let's cut out the hole for the triangle. Select this face here and hit X, delete face. And now it's really starting to take shape. The next thing we want to do is let's start beveling this and working on that arch. Then we're going to come back here and we're going to cut those shapes out at the top there. And you can see here in this picture that it even has a triangle bit. I didn't know that until this build, that triangle, that's how the clip works. When there's a bit of resistance, it meets that triangle part and it has to kind of squeeze into that shape. And then once you put enough pressure, it goes on the other side. And that's what causes that flipping. I never realized what that was. I never had a close look until this build. So I think that's pretty cool. Let's come down here to select edges. I'm going to select this bottom one. We're going to bevel it. Control B. Nice big bevel. It's a pretty round shape. If you're on a mouse, you can use your scroll wheel to add segments right away. I'm using a pen tablet, so I'm going to come here after and just add segments. I think that looks good. I'm going to select this edge and just pull it up. And then I'm going to round that out after I apply the mirror modifier. Okay. Let's come back here and let's start working on our boolean. It's a good time to mention, if I'm moving a little too fast for you, go ahead and check out my beginner's Blender tutorial that I did, where I go through the basics, the interface, and some of the tools, and that should get you up to speed a little faster. For the boolean, what we're going to do is we're going to create another cylinder and use that to cut the shape out. Your Shift A, and we're going to create a cylinder, scale it down, scale it up a little bit, 90 degrees. I'm going to skinny it up, and it also has to be on a diagonal. Perfect. Let's scale it back down a little bit. I'm going to rotate it, let's say 25 degrees, move it over. Let's just see what that looks like. We can always play with the placement after. What we're going to do now is select our clip, come on over to the modifiers, and add a Boolean modifier. We're going to use this cylinder shape to cut out that groove, that shape out of the clip. So for the object, all I'm going to do is say cylinder, which is that object there. And the order of these modifiers matter. So let's just move this up. Perfect. Let's then hide the cylinder. Cool. So we're getting somewhere. Now this is going to be the trickiest part. So we're going to spend maybe a good 5 minutes just figuring it out, making it look as good as we can. And then we'll commit to that shape. One thing we want to do, come back to our clip, and there's a face right in here that we don't need. Just select it, delete that face, so there's an actual little gap between the two metal parts. Okay, tab back out. I like the angle, so I'm going to keep that. And then I think it's a little low as well. Okay, let's show our cylinder again. All I'm going to do is scale it a little bit. So that's feeling better there. I'm going to move it in a little bit and hide it. I think that works a little better. But now for some reason we have this clip that's filled in for no reason. Or it wasn't before. We've adjusted our cylinder and now it's doing this to our clip here. So let's try to figure that out. Let's go to the modifier and let's just switch from exact to fast. I can't explain why it does that. I just know that fixes it. So if you're having that problem, give that a try. Yeah, I'm liking it. Let's commit to this. I'm going to apply the modifier so then I can work on the geometry afterwards. You could save it at this point, try to apply the modifier, and then if it doesn't work out, you can always come back. So to apply the modifier, you come up here and just hit apply. Now when I select my geo and I go into tab, you can see that I have the geometry to work with. Let's select 3, and then we're going to delete these faces right here. Perfect. All right, so let's hit K and get our knife tool out. And starting right here, I'm just going to cut back into the shape. So I'm going to go to that vertex. You can see it snaps there. Click on it, and I can just start pulling out. Something like that I think looks good. And I'm going to click, hit spacebar, and then commit to that. Go back to my select tool, and now let's see that cut. And we'll continue it all the way to the end. K again. And kind of just line it up the best you can. Spacebar. Okay, let's make sure we're on 3, and we're going to select these faces and we're going to delete those. Cool. X to delete. I think that looks good. Tab back out and we'll just have a look. And yeah, I think it's working. Nice job getting up to this point. There's 2 more things we have to do, then the clip portion of this model is done. After that, we'll move on to the handle. So for the clip, we're going to add 2 modifiers. We're going to add a solidify that adds thickness to the model. We're also going to add a subdivision surface modifier to smooth it out. We have our object modifier, and we're going to add a solidify modifier. So you can see it did what we wanted to. It added thickness, but there's an issue right here. There's a pinching, there's a skinniness going on there. Then the thickness continues as expected. But over there, there's an issue. So we have to fix that. There's 2 issues currently, so I'll explain what that is. What we can do when you have any modifier, you can come on over here to this icon, to this screen icon, click it, and it just mutes the modifier. So there's 2 issues going on with the model. The first one being the face orientation. When we created that spin tool to create that loop at the top, we added extra geometry. And that extra geometry is facing a different way. Those faces are pointing a different way. So let me show you what that looks like. We can come on over here and turn on face orientation. That turns our model red and blue. Red just points to one side, blue points to another. And the easiest way for me to just go about this, I like to start in one area of the model. So I'm going to start right here at the bottom. And so you can see it's red underneath. And if I continue following this face along the model, it's still red. I'm going to work my way up, and then it's still red. And I would expect that as it goes into this loop, it would remain red. But you can see here, it's blue. And that's where we're having that issue as well. So let's select the model, tab into edit mode, 3 for faces. And we're just going to select these faces right there. Deselect this one, and make sure you select all the loop, all the affected faces, and same with this side as well. Perfect. Okay, with the faces I want selected on this side and this side there, coming over here to mesh, normals, and flip. Tab out, and you can see that it now continues smoothly. So good job. Let's test that out. Coming over here and show the modifier. We're still having some issue there, so I'll explain the second issue. Let's come on over here. It's fixed it. It's fixed the flipping over here. So nice job there. What the difference between this area and this area is that when we have the mirror modifier right now, the vertices on this side, they're just too close to the center, and I think that's causing some weird issues. Select the model, tab into edit mode. Let's go to 3 in our front view. I'm going to hit Alt-Z to see through the model. And you can see it really is on that line. So let's just select these vertices and pull that out. And all of a sudden it fixes that issue. That's all it needs. Perfect. Just enough. Okay. Tab back out. Alt-Z to see through the model. And we've now fixed that issue. Let's come on over here. Face orientation, so we're back to our shaded mode. The solidify modifier looks good. There's one last thing I'm going to do, and then I'm going to apply both of these modifiers. The reason is I don't find these work well when I'm also trying to smooth the model with a subdivision surface modifier. So I'm going to apply those, but before I do, I would recommend saving the scene, then apply the subdivision surface modifier. Last thing we got to do is coming up here, tab into edit mode, and just go to vertex. And I'm going to go Control B, then V, and I'm going to round this out right there. Perfect. And it does it to the both sides. Awesome. I think the model's turning out really well. Okay, so at this point I'd save it. I'm not going to. I'm going to continue, but just for yourself. And let's apply these modifiers. Start at the top and apply and apply. Perfect. Let's come back to modifier and add a subdivision surface modifier. What that does is it smooths things out. In our case, it kind of looks like it breaks some stuff. It looks a little funky. The reason for that is the topology of the model is not the cleanest. But I'm not concerned with that because I don't want to spend the time and clean the model. I want to do as little work as I can, or pardon me, I want to spend as little time as I can, but achieve a presentable product. In this case, I just want to animate this clip, but I want it to look good. So here's what I'm going to do to fix these issues. Tab into our model, go to 1 for our side view, go to 3 for faces, and we're going to select all the exposed faces, starting with the outside, then I'll do the inside as well. Let's go Alt-Z to see through our model, and select that face on the outside, and this one on this side since we no longer have the mirror. And let's shift select all of this as well. Perfect. And this face, perfect. Keep going. Okay. Alt-Z. And here's what we have. This is the selection. We have this one side, all the exposed outside edge. Same with this side. And then we have the inside exposed face, all of it highlighted as well with our faces. We're going to come on over here to our extrude tool. Normally it's on extrude region, but we need extrude along normals in this case. And just pull that out and then pull that back in. All we need is a little bit of definition. I'm holding shift now. Shift just slows your movement down. Perfect. Tab back out, select your model, shade smooth. Come on. And this model is done. So really nice job. What we're going to do now is model the handle. Duplicate it, put it in position, then the modeling portion is done. Let's select the model, come on over here to our materials property, hit new, and we're going to give this under base color. We're just going to slide this down, give it a black color. Come on over here to our shaded view, and we're getting a better visual of our clip. All right, I'm going to go to my folder structure, and I'm going to just drag this into Blender, just like that. I'm going to use this to model just the handle shape. Let's go Alt-R, Alt-G to reposition it. And one of the cool things is I can go into 7 and just already move this and scale it up, and it should be roughly the proportions of our model. I've lined up the shape pretty closely, and I'm going to model this handle, and it's already in position. Okay, let's just hide our cube so we can focus on the model here. Let's go Shift A, Mesh, let's add a plane. Tab into edit mode, 1 to go to vertex, and delete 3 of the vertex. So now we're just left with this little guy there. Let's move that vertex. I'm going to move it right on this corner. There's going to be a piece of metal that's flat there, and then we curve up to the top. Just going to bring it in the corner, kind of right in the middle of the thickness of that piece of metal. Let's go E to extrude and bring it all the way to the top. Try to line it up with that axis. I'm going to hit N and go to my item, and this vertex that's selected has values, and on the x-axis I want to be exactly 0 so it mirrors nicely. Okay, and now what we're going to do is just start adding some cuts and start defining the shape. Shift R, you can see a little white dot there, commit to that, move it up. Shift R, G, And I'm just now following the shape Shift R, G, and do this a number more times just to get that shape looking good. Cool. I'm going to come down here, and then this last vertex, let's go E the other way to extrude, E, right click, and we can just pull it flat just like that. I'm going to select this vertex, go Control B, then V to bevel, and we're just beveling that just to create that nice arc. And I think we've done a pretty nice job here. I'm going to add just one more segment there, G, just to smooth that out a bit. I'm not too worried that it's a bit jaggedy. We can fix that in a little bit. We have half of the handle shape, so let's tab out. Let's hide our image for now. So here's that shape. Let's add a mirror modifier. Coming over here, modifier. It mirrors it really nicely because we've already centered that one up there. Let's turn clipping on. And what clipping is right where the point of contact, that mirror, happens. Any vertex that's on that point is gonna go from being 2 vertex to being 1. Clipping does that for us. Okay, so I like what I'm seeing. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create another shape, and we're gonna basically extrude along that curve. Right now it's still a piece of geometry, so let's convert it to a curve. Let's apply this modifier, apply, coming over here to object, convert, it's a mesh currently, we're going to convert to a curve. Let's go Shift A, and now we're going to come down to curve and create a circle. So this circle that we just brought in is going to be the shape along the path of this handle curve. So let's select the curve and coming over here to our object data properties, this cool green curve. Under geometry, we're going to scroll down to where it says bevel. You might be on round. What we're going to do is go to object, and we're going to select that Bezier curve, that circle. Okay, we're going to say fill caps, and why it's so large is because that curve that we just brought in, that circle, is large. So I have it selected, and we're going to scale that in. And already we can affect the thickness here. Something like that looks good. Let's bring our image back. I'm still scaling, and I like that. Okay, one more thing I want to do before we position this model is smooth it out. So I'm going to come back to my model here. Let's go to our modifiers, and we can add a subdivision surface modifier. What that does is it really smooths it out. We can right click and shade smooth. Okay, I think this object looks really good. So that was nice and quick. Let's go Alt H just to show everything. We don't need to see our reference image anymore. This is the cylinder that we made for the Boolean. Just gonna hide that for now. I think it's looking really good. It's already pretty much where it needs to be. I'm going to now select it and just rotate it 180, just to the other side. You can see the thickness, the gap is a little too big. So what I can do is select that circle and just scale it up. And all of a sudden I have control over it. We want to duplicate the handle so it's on the other side. I'm going to convert it back to a mesh so I can apply the modifier. So object, convert from a curve back to a mesh. Perfect. You saw that modifier go away. Let's go to modifiers, and what we're going to do is add a mirror modifier. Boop. For our mirror object, I'm going to use the eyedropper tool and select the clip and change the axis. All right, nice job. Let's go ahead and apply that modifier. Let's go ahead and affect the materials quickly, then the model itself is done. So let's go to render. And let's add an HDR lighting. So let's go to shading. If you right click on one of those lines where the two windows meet, you can right click and you have some options, and I join it just to make it a little bigger. Okay, over here we have the object. But I'm gonna go to world, go Shift A and go to texture. let's add an environment texture. Let's hook that up. And we also want to go to render up here. Everything turned purple because there's no input value. Let's go open. And pick any HDR light that you want. So an HDRI is a 360 degree image. And we use that, the color data, to affect the lighting in our scene. I've included a link in the description to the HDRI website where you can go ahead and download these images for free. Pick any one you want and go open. Perfect. And now we have this environment affecting the light in our scene. Let's go to our render properties and just hide the image. So under film, you can say transparent. But we're still left with the lighting data on our object. Okay, so now that we can see the lights, we can affect the materials more accurately. Just select the model, go back up here to object, and then you get your shader. Both of these are just metallic. That's really what they are, with a different color. Let's come in over here to the slider, and we can turn it up all the way to 100% metal. I'm also going to come down here to the roughness and slide that down. So now it's almost like a mirror. I think it's too much. Turn it back up. Something like that. Also too much. Cool. I think that's nice. Select your handle. There's no material on it now. Just say new. And same idea. It's metallic. I'm going to go all the way. And its roughness, in this case, I'm going to go all the way down. If you find that to be a little too shiny, I might even bring that roughness back in just a little bit. Okay, the material portion is done. The model itself is done. Really nice job, everyone. Let's rig this model quickly so then we can animate 2 cycles together. Let's come back to our layout workspace and we're going to come back to our shader. When I select the handle, it's still one geometry. What I'm going to do is go tab into edit mode, 3 for faces, and let's just go right to our top, and I'm going to select one side. There's a fast way to do that. If you want, just hover over the model or the portion of the model you want. Hit L and it selects everything. And your cap is actually its own piece. So I'm going to come over here, hit L again. It's okay that it's its own separate piece, but just know that it is. And hit P, selection. What P is it separates the selection. Tab out. And now this piece is by itself, this piece is by itself. The pivot is working nicely. If I go to the other one, the pivot is in the wrong spot, so we have to update it on one side. Since the cursor was already placed, we can just mirror it to the other side. Hit N to bring up your properties, and it's minus 0.085. I can just get rid of the minus. The cursor jumps to that side. I can then select this portion of the handle. I can come up here to Object, Set Origin, Origin to 3D Cursor. Perfect. Give it a try. And it's working the way it needs to be. The pivots are important, so make sure you have them placed where they need to be. So we're ready to add the rig. Before we do, let's clean up our scene a little bit. Let's name some of the objects. Okay, so those are our 3 geometries that we're using. There's also a couple more. We don't need the image anymore. I'm going to delete that. The Bezier curve was that circle that we added that affected the thickness of our handle shape. We don't need that anymore. We can delete. And this cylinder is that Boolean shape that cut the shape out of this. Since we applied the modifier, we also don't need that. That was that shape there. So with all those things deleted, our outliner is now clean. I'm going to select these 3 objects, go M. I'm going to make a new collection. And I'm just going to call this model. So everything is nested under this new collection we made. Let's get that cursor back to its world origin. Shift S and cursor to world origin, just so it's back to its default. Now let's add a plane. Shift A, mesh, plane. Go 7 on your numpad. I'm going to use this plane to create the shape of my curve. So tab into edit mode. And let's start affecting its shape a little bit. What I'm doing is creating the move all control. I'm going to go into 1, Control B with everything selected, then V, and I'm just going to bevel that vertex. I think that looks good. tab out, back to object mode. With the object selected, go to Object, Convert, and convert it to a curve. Okay, let's give this a name. Move all. And let's already put this in a collection. So with this one curve selected, I'm going to go M and new collection rig. Let's go Shift D, right click to cancel its placement. Tab, let's go 7 so we can see things better, and scale it down a little bit. Every control that I make always has a duplicate. That way, when we're animating, we have a little bit extra flexibility. Let's give this a name, coming up here, and it's going to be Move All Sub. Okay. Next thing we want to do is add 2 controls at the top. Maybe we want to pivot nicely. And then we're going to add a control for each of the handles to go up and down. Let's select this handle and this handle, tab into edit mode. I'm going to go 3 for faces, and I'm going to go L on each cap here. Okay. Shift S and cursor to selected. Just going to find that middle point. Tab back out, Shift A, and create a plane, and it creates it right in that spot. Go 7, and then tab into edit mode, and let's affect the shape of this one now. Cool, I think that looks good. And same thing like before, I'm going to go 1 into the vertex, Control B, then V to bevel that vertex. Tab out. With that object selected, go to Object, Convert into a curve. And there is our new control for the COG in this case. Let's give that a name, and I'm going to call it COG. Perfect. I'm also now going to hit M and just make sure it's under our rig collection so it all fits under there. Shift D to duplicate, right click to cancel that position, 7 to go to our top view, and tab to go into our edit mode. Scale it down a little bit. Okay, I think that looks really nice. Let's give this a name, and it's COG sub. Let's now add the control for each of the handles. So let's select the handle, one of them, tab, and I still have the 2 end caps selected. I'm going to go Shift S, cursor to selected, and my cursor just updated between those 2 points. Tab back out. I'm going to go Shift A, and let's now just create a curve, and it's going to be a circle. Nice and simple. Tab into edit mode. Let's go 90 degrees. Perfect. Scale it down a little bit. Awesome. And I'm going to move this forward a little bit. The pivot's still there, but I just want it to be easier to select. Awesome. I think it's looking really good. Scale it down a little more. And I'm going to give it just a little bit of a shape here. So I'm going to select this first point here. Deselect by hitting Control. Deselect that point there and scale it in. Cool. I'm going to pull it out a little bit. And all I'm doing is just adding a bit of shape to it. So when I rotate it a little bit, it just helps me know that I've actually rotated it. Let's move it into our rig collection, and let's give it a name. So this one I'm going to call just handle right. Okay, let's duplicate that object and let's update the pivot. So Shift D, right click to cancel, and let's come on over here to our other handle, tab into edit mode. We still have our selections from before. Shift S, cursor to selected. Our cursor now is in the middle of those 2 points. Tab out of edit mode. Select that other control we just made. We can go Shift S. And we can say selection to cursor. So now that selection jumped over there. It looks a little funky. That's okay. We can go Tab, A to select all. And we can go 180. And just place that object on this side now. Okay, let's give that a try. I select this handle, and it's pivoting from the right spot. So we created all the controls for our rig. Now we're going to constrain them in the right order. The easiest way to remember is just the sub control will follow its larger parent. So select the smaller one, coming over here to our constraints properties, and we're gonna just be dealing with child of. Perfect. And it's a child of the bigger one. So in this case, the move all will affect the move all sub. Let's do the same for the smaller one, the COG sub, child of, picker, and it's a child of the COG. Awesome. These two ones, our handle controls, are going to be constrained to this COG sub. So select the handle, child of, and it follows the sub 2. Select this one, child of, following the same COG sub. And now our COG control will follow the move all sub, child of. So now the rig is working as expected, and we just have to attach the geometry, same order with a child of. So right here I can go child of, and it's going to follow now this control. Perfect. And then the clip is going to follow the COG sub. Let's give it a try. Okay, nice job. The rig is done. We're going to clean up the outliner a bit, save the file, open a new Blender, and we're going to append this rig into that new scene, and we're going to do it twice. One to create an animation, a flight cycle animation, and the other a fish animation cycle. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this, right click, I'm going to say new collection. And I'm going to call this clip. Perfect, clip rig. And everything is going to come into that. So when I pin this rig into the new file, I'm looking for clip rig. Okay, let's save this scene. File, save as. All right, so we got a new scene going. Let's go over to File and Append. And we just have to find out where we saved it. We called it clip rig. So click the file you want, go to Append, and we saved everything we need under collection. Double click that, just select clip rig, and that was our collection. And let's do it one more time. Okie dokie. Okay, so for one of the models, we're going to do a flight cycle together, so you can see how I put that together. And then for this one, we'll do a swimming cycle together. Okay, so for the flying one, let's really shorten our timeline here. And let's just hide this one rig for now. We just don't need to see it. I'm going to minimize all these. And it's this first clip. I'm just going to hit this check mark there. All right, so the first thing we want to do when we create a cycle is pick a pose. And a cycle, what it is the first pose of an animation and the last pose of an animation, they need to be the same. Everything in the middle could change, and then in order for it to cycle correctly, first pose, last pose needs to be the same. So I'm going to pick a pose to start, and I'm just going to say that my bird has his wings up. Cool, so that'll be my start. Select both of those, and I'm gonna go insert location and rotation. That just sets a key. And you can see a little diamond was created there. Okay, let's figure out what our next pose is. So coming over here. Now if I go Alt-R, it just resets my rotations back to a value of 0. And maybe something like 45 degrees down might be nice. Yeah, I think that looks good. Insert location rotation, come on over here, Alt-R, just to reset the value as well, and 45 degrees. Perfect. Okay, so now what we have is the extreme poses. The highest it's going to go, and then the lowest it's going to go. And now what I'm going to do is play with the timing, so it looks good. All right, so the timing of a bird flapping its wing, it's quicker on the up and slower on the down. Okay, so we'll do the same thing here. So right now we have 9 frames, and I think it can be a little slower going down. I'm going to maybe make it 13 or 15 frames, something like that. I'm going to make sure I do it on both. Cool. Let's also come in over here to our animation workspace. And I don't work with the dope sheet, so I'm going to switch that to my graph editor. Perfect. Hit A to select all, period numpad just to frame for it. Okay, let's slide this up so we can see our time slider nicer. We can zoom in, perfect. And over here, let's already go Shift A and create a camera. Hit 0 on your numpad to frame in for it. And now I can just make this window a little larger. Perfect. Hit N, view, and camera to view. And I love that button. Now I can frame within this window out of the camera. Select the geometry and just start framing for it. Perfect. Any angle you want. I think something like this, giving a little more space to the direction it's flying and a little less screen space behind it. Okay, I think that looks good. And I'm going to click that again, just so now I can't bump that camera. 0 to get back there. And let's turn these off, just so I focus on the animation. Okay, and how I go in and out, I have a hotkey Alt-Q, and you can see that in that beginner's tutorial as well. Over here is my workspace window. Let's turn these on, because I want to see my selection and use my translate and rotate tools. Alright, so let's select our handle. Perfect. We've set a key on both of these. Awesome. So 13 frames currently for going down. I think that's pretty good. I think this bird is slightly larger, maybe like a raven, something that size. So I have my two extreme poses and they're 12 frames apart. And I might make the up swing 8 frames. So I'm going to make that quicker. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to come in over here and insert a key. And I'm just going to drag that key over here. Perfect. So this key is the same as this key. You can see I can move my cursor and that position isn't moving. Cool. So now that we have the timing, roughly anyways, I'm going to come in over here and make my end framing 20 frames. So the reason it's 20 and not 21, I don't need to play the beginning and the end frame twice. So coming over here, just make it 20. And all I'm doing now is looking at the speed of things. Cool, I think that looks good. In terms of the timing, it's very stiff, and so we're going to add some ease in, ease out, and what that's going to do is it's going to make the transitions quicker, and it's going to make the two extreme poses stay there a little longer. Alright, so in our graph editor, I'm going to hit A to select all, V. I'm just going to make everything auto-clamped for now. So what that does is the timing, it's slower, and then it's quicker, and it eases in here. So we're spending more time at the two extremes. Let's play that. Cool, I think that's looking a little better. I'm going to make the timing a little snappier. So here's what we're going to do. Just as it's about to come down, and kind of lining up with this metal piece as well, I'm going to insert a key, I, location rotation, and maybe just as it goes past that one, I, location rotation, and I'm going to select this key and bring it in one, select this key, bring it in one. So now this part's slower, and then in this part it's much faster. And so that timing feels good as well. And I'm going to do the same for it going up. So insert, maybe somewhere just in here, insert. I'm going to pull this one frame, pull this one frame, and that might be a little too snappy, so we'll find out. Actually, I don't mind that. I like the snappier feel. Cool, so I like the timing of the wings. I like the snappiness. And what I'm going to do now is do some animation on the body to go along with the timing of the wings. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select this control down here, not this one, because if I wanted to, I could then animate further. I could animate the position of it flying. So I'm going to select this sub control, and that's what I'm going to do my timing on. I'm also going to select one of these controls as well, just so I have the timing already visible for me. Okay, go to my first frame, I to insert. Let's go to my last frame, I to insert. The middle was 13, I to insert. Perfect. I don't need this control anymore. That was just for timing. And now I have everything I need here. As the wings go down, the body should go up. Boop, just a little bit. Cool. Yeah, nice and simple. The body doesn't really fit the style of the wings, the animation, because the wings are snappier, yet the body is a bit floatier. So we're going to tighten the timing of that. But overall, the timing was good. We're just going to tighten things up. Oh, and that could be part of it. We're linear, coming in and out, and then we have an ease at the top. Select all, V, and auto clamp. Let's play that. And that does help. But I'm going to still play a little bit with the timing, and then this bird animation is done. Basically what I'm going to do actually is delay it coming down. So I'm only working with my translate Z curve. So I'm going to select that one here and go Shift H, just so it's the only curve I see. A to select all, period numpad to frame for it. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select this one key, G, and move it over one frame. So it's still going up just slightly as the wings are starting to come back up. And what I'm going to do is select the two ends and curve it down a little bit. So what that does, we're not coming in as hot, and we're still overshooting a little bit on the side. So let's play with that. And that feels really good. Okay, I'm happy with this bird animation, this cycle. And then this is how I started creating that first shot that you saw with the three birds flying off in the distance. Okay, let's do the fish animation, and then this tutorial is done. Let's move this rig over to the side. Boop. See, that's one of the nice things about having multiple controls. This one wasn't animated, makes it easy to move out of the way. Let's show this other rig, and let's hide this one for now. Yeah. Let's center this one. Okay, so for the fish, what we can do is just position it in a different way. The way I did it was I just brought it up. Cool. Something like that. And then I rotated this guy, and all of a sudden it's looking like a fish to me. Okay, so for the fish cycle, I'm not quite sure. Maybe we keep a 20 frame, but I think it's going to be a slower bit than the timing of the bird. So let's give ourselves more time, maybe about 30 frames, a little slower. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab this move all sub, and all we're going to do is try to figure out the timing of it going left and right first. Then after that, we're going to layer on some rotation. Once that's feeling good, we're going to come to the back and do the fins. Okay, so let's start up here. And we just want to keep things simple. Find the timing of that side-to-side movement. Okie dokie, so let's do that. Let's go I, location rotation, just to insert that key. And let's come on over here, and I'm going to actually say frame 29. For now anyways. And I'm going to go also location rotation on that last frame. The timing might change, but I'm thinking that's good because then 15 is the middle. And so I keyed the two ends because, again, in a cycle, the first pose and the last pose need to be the same. So let's go over here, and all we're going to do is just pull it off to the side a little bit. And that's it. A to select all, period numpad to frame for everything. And sometimes when you select everything and frame for it in the graph editor, it just doesn't look good. The curves, the distance between them are too great. So in this case, this top curve, I don't need anything. Just gonna select this bottom one and frame for it there. Already I can see it better. Let's select this over here and go V, auto clamp. Let's just take a look at the timing. I'm gonna reposition my camera. So hit N, go to view, camera to view. Select your object, and I can already frame for it here. I think that looks good, and get rid of that. Just recenter my image here. Okay, so same thing, I'm just gonna play my animation. I'm looking at the timing before I do anything else. Cool, and I think the timing of this side to side, I think that looks good. In my mind, the size of this fish is about 1 foot in length. So what we want to do is add some rotation now. So this fish is moving to screen right, and I think it's going to slightly be pointing in that direction a little bit. Again, I'm doing the same rotation at the beginning and at the end, so the two keys are the same. Let's give that a look. So it's looking a little strange because I need to add some offset to the rotation, then we'll do the tail. As it's moving in that direction, right now currently it's rotating the other way. I have to keep it oriented in that direction for a little longer. So here we had a value of 3, perfect. And just about here, just keep it rotated in that direction, maybe a little longer. You can see it's coming down and then it goes this way. I'm going to do the same for the other side. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames, perfect. 15, let's go to 21. Perfect. Just going to clean the curve up a little bit. Like the last ones, like this one, I'm going to do them together. And I'm just making sure the curve looks a little cleaner. Okay, so that's already feeling better. Cool, let's move on to the fin. Let's just key location rotation at the end and at the beginning. And one thing I forgot to do is I'm playing the first frame and the last frame twice. We can come on over here and go to frame 28. I was on 29, now I'm on 28. So the cycle, when it plays 1 to 28, then it goes back to 1, and frame 1, remember, is the same as frame 29. So we don't need to play both the first frame and the last frame twice. Yeah. Okay. Let's come in over here in the middle and location rotation. Awesome. So this fish, perfect. And then it's going to have a nice overshoot there. Cool. So let's give it a value of 10. Insert, perfect. Do the same over here. 10. Come on over here in the middle. Minus 10. Cool. It's lagging a little behind. It's looking a little stiff. So select all. A to select all. V auto clamp. Cool. And coming over here, and just like we did with the body, I'm going to delay it a little more. And in this case, I'm going to delay it a few more frames as well. And just pull it back. Perfect. 23. Come on. Let's have a look at our curves, and then we'll have a look at the animation. Select all, perfect. Let's just select these two curves and frame for those. Perfect, so we're just gonna clean the curve up a little bit. Same thing with the top. And now what we're gonna do is just select the corners, and we just don't want it to go flat. We're going to have a little bit of overshoot. Just like that. Cool. I think that's looking really good. The fish cycle animation is done. And I could offset it a little more and play with it some more, but I think this is looking really good. And let's bring back both cycles and I'll show you how to just copy and paste the cycle so it goes on for a little longer. So if we go to first frame and then we go to the last frame, you see there's no movement happening. That's how you know this cycle is good. Now, so I'm going to select A, Control C, right on this last one, Control V, perfect. And you can see that it just pasted that cycle. Coming over here, A, Control C, Control V, perfect. It's all looking good. And let's do it over here, last one, A, Control C, Control V. Awesome. So now this animation goes to frame 57. So I'm going to say 56. And I'm going to bring back my bird animation. Cool, so my bird animation was 21 frames for the cycle. I'm going to select all, A, Control C, Control V, go to the last one, Control V, perfect. And let's do my wings as well, Control C, go to the last frame, Control V, and do it for the last one as well. A, Control C, Control V, Control V. Alright, so there's the animation together, the bird and the fish. If you're following along and managed to get here, really nice job. I don't think this episode was an easy one. We built the model, added materials, rigged it, and animated it as well. I'm taking requests for future builds, so if there's anything you want to see modeled and animated, let me know. Okay everyone, till next time, bye bye.